Shalom, shalom, lechol mishpacha v'chaverim. Oh yeah, it's that time again. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. If that's the Eric B. and Rakim version or the Aliyah version, whichever you choose. Shalom, shalom, lechol mishpacha v'chaverim. Huh? Ma shalom lecha. Huh? Ma shalom lecha hayom. How y'all doing today? Right? I just said how y'all doing today. We got Mr. Black Pastor in the building. Toda, thank you for tuning in. All right. Without a strong rhyme, without a dope beat to step to. Shouldn't have left you. It has been a long time. Over 2 months, I believe. Right? So yeah, just said Ma shalom lecha. Ma shalom lecha. Hayom. How you doing today? How y'all doing today? Um, I learned something else. So אני מקווה שכולכם עושים טוב. I'm trying to say it. אני מקווה שכולכם עושים טוב ומבורך. So that is, I hope y'all are doing good and blessed. All right, so without further ado, we're going to get into this. This is called Paradosis Part 1. Paradosis Part 1, the Last Supper or the Lord's Supper, right? We're going to talk about that. Paradosis. So I was inspired to do this from Brother Orthodox Moore, right? And Brother Orthodox Moore a while back said, "Hey, can we do something on Paradosis?" So to those coming in, Shalom lechol mishpacha v'haverim. אני מקווה שכולכם עושים טוב ומבורך. Right? I hope y'all are doing good and blessed. So I am streaming on my Facebook page, Shanti Doc. I'm also streaming on my YouTube channel, which is 916 Shanshan. And I'm also streaming on Debate Talk for You. Please, please, please do me a favor. Do us a favor. And like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. I sometimes forget to say that. However, I remember today, right? I remember today to say like, subscribe, and share. Please, please, please do, right? So, paradosis. Paradosis is the Greek word for tradition. And we're going to talk a little bit about tradition, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about the Lord's Supper. The Lord's Supper, what's known in the Gospels as the Last Supper. That's what we're going to talk about today. So yes, this is called Paradosis Part 1. Paradosis Part 1. We're going to look at that tradition there, right? Like, subscribe, and share. So before we get started, I'm going to allow the guest here to formally introduce himself. Please, please, please. Go ahead, brother. State your name. No, I'm playing. Say what's up to the people.
Now, what's going on, everybody? Hope all is well. Hoping the week wasn't too tough. Glad to be here. Looking forward to getting into the information.
Hallelujah. So while we're on the Debate Talk for You channel, and thank you, BA, for being here. Really appreciate you being here. And definitely, I love your commentary and your input. That's why I always have you here. So we're on Debate Talk for You platform, so we have to give the disclaimer, right? So I'm going to say the disclaimer. This is the brand disclaimer for Debate Talk for You. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus the invited guests, are their own. The info you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. And we encourage everyone to research all things heard live via archive for edification purposes Discretion is advised. All right. So, ko tehelim ko kabo wahati fedes le Yahweh Avinu Eloheinu. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, our Elohim, our deity, our power, our Father. So, hey, how you doing, Miss Hillel? Shalom, shalom, Yom Tov, Yom Tov. That's another teacher right there. So, with that being said, let's get into this. So, I wanted to take a look at paradosis real quick. Paradosis is the Greek word for tradition. The Hebrew word is maseret. The Hebrew word for that is maseret. Maseret. We're going to get into that a little bit. This is going to be informal, not too long and not too short, right? So we'll probably have a couple of parts to this series that I'm doing on Torah Tittles of the text, right? And also why I call this Torah Tittles of the text. Well, the tittle is that horn on the dalet. It's one of the smallest strokes on the consonants of the Hebrew language. So remember when Jesus said, "Not one yod or one tittle shall pass from the Torah until heaven and earth pass." Right? Tittle. That's so we look at things for that perspective in the most minutest detail here. So we're going to do something just a little bit different with this Torah Tittles of the text. We're going to look at the word tradition. We're going to look at what it is, what it means, what it's not, what it is, right? So, BA, let me get you started here. Share my screen. Oh, I do. All right. Mouse want to be tripping. Mouse want to be tripping, but it's all right. We gonna get it. We gonna get it popping. All right. So this is it. We're gonna start with Matthew 15. I know a lot of times people talk about traditions, especially when they see Yeshua talking about traditions in the text. They think all traditions are bad because of the responses that Yeshua gave to the Pharisees when the Pharisees were asking him questions, right? Traditions are not always bad, right? I I I believe me and my husband have a tradition of going out and clothing the homeless or whatnot. He used to do. Well, he not used to do, but he does every so often what he calls the cool box, where he gets people to donate their clothes, donate necessities to those less fortunate, and he does a hip hop show where he asks people to bring a donated item so that you can have entry into the event. He does things like that, and that has become a tradition for us, right? So tradition. All right. So let's get into this, BA. BA, I want you to read Matthew chapter 15, verses 1 to 3.
Okay. And it reads verse 1. Then the Pharisees and scribes came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why do your disciples break the traditions of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat." He answered them, "And why do you break the commandments of God for the sake of your traditions?"
Keep reading for me.
Verse 4. For God commanded, "Honor your father and your mother, and whosoever reviles father or mother must surely die." But you say, if anyone tells his father or his mother, what you would have gained from me is given to God.
Read to verse 6.
He need not honor his father. So for the sake of your tradition, you have made void the word of God.
Right. So the Pharisees, they're asking Yeshua the question, hey, why are your disciples not doing what we call the tradition of the elders? Why are they not doing these things? Well, um, what's tradition, BA? What's your take on what tradition means.
Traditions are things that we hold to, things that we do that are it's common to just to do them. Like my family has traditions. I know like around, let's see, my grandmother passed around November. So a tradition my family started to do is right before Easter, all of my mother and her siblings, they get together in memory of my grandmother, because the last time that my grandmother saw all of her siblings and all her children together was around, it was this like a week before Easter, prior to her death. You know what I'm saying? I mean, well, yeah, she died in November, of course, but the last time she saw all her children together was before Easter came, around that time. So from till this, and that was about 20 some years ago. Until this day, my relatives, my uncles and aunties and cousins and stuff like that, they get together and keep that tradition, by in memory of my grandmother. Um, as far as seeing her alive around that time with all her children when she was living at that moment or at that time. So that's a tradition my family keeps.
Right. And so is that something that your family is obligated to keep,
They
or is it
don't
just a choice?
they don't have to keep it,
There
but
you go.
that's something that they have all decided. My mom is the oldest.
Okay.
Then it goes my uncles, and then there's other family members who never got a chance to meet my grandmother because they were either too young or they weren't alive then. So now more people have gotten involved, and the week before Easter, they normally just get together and honor my grandmother, and it's been going on for over 20 years now.
Right on. So it's something that people choose to do, right? It's not something they're obligated or have to do, right? They just do it out of the kindness of their heart, or because of the impact or influence that that relative has had on them. Correct? They want to honor, and and keep somebody's memory going, right?
Exactly.
So 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 the Pharisees, and remember, not all Pharisees were the same. There were the school of Hillel, and then there was the school of Shammai. So whichever 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 Pharisees were asking the question, not relevant to this, however, um, it's saying, hey, why don't your disciples, your taught ones, you know, why don't they wash their hands when they eat? Now, I understand it's a good hygienical thing to wash your hands before you eat. However, this was a way in the Mishnah or the Halacha, or one of the oral laws or one of the oral traditions that said, hey, you had to have a certain jug, you had to um, pour to the left or pour to the right first, and then you have to say these blessings or whatever, or you can't have certain people around while you're saying these things while you're washing your hands. It's some sort of ritual, right? It's some sort of ritual, right? So there was certain Pharisees who were saying, one of the 10 utterances or one of the 10 commandments is to honor your father and your mother. And you know and they some of the Pharisees made up some certain things where you don't really have to take care of your mother and your father, when especially when they get elderly or can't really take care of themselves, and probably don't have the means to take care of themselves or the physical capabilities. A lot of these Pharisees was like, hey, anything that would help my elderly mother or father, monetarily. Hey, if I say it's korban, if I say it's an offering dedicated to Yod Hey Wahe, then I don't have to give it to my mother and father. That's what Yeshua was against when he said he was against that tradition, right? Because that tradition went against what was written in the first five books of of the Bible, which is the instructions, the law, the Torah, right? So in Matthew 15, we're gonna go ahead and look at the Greek. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Beverly, sure. How do you subscribe? Okay, so please, on my YouTube channel is 916 Sean. I'll spell it 916 Sean. So yeah, when you go to the channel, there's a big big word that says subscribe. Go ahead and click on that, and then click on the bell to get all notifications when I have new videos up or when I go live. All right. And thank you for joining. I hope you learned something here. I hope this is exciting because I was excited when I learned it too. We're gonna get to it. All right. So in Matthew chapter 15, verses pretty much 2 and 3. We went over, but we wanted those to stick out. But we're just going to focus on the word tradition here, right? Paradosis, right? And when you go to your Strong's concordance, and the concordance just lets you know which word, when you come to a certain word in the Hebrew or the Greek, it tells you how the word is translated in the passage or the verse when you come across it, right? So the word here in verse 2 and in verse 2 and in verse 3, right? It's in the accusative. The accusative is it's a different form in the Greek when you're when it's at the end of a word, right? It has that new. It looks like a V, but it has that. It's the new, right? All right. So paradosis. So this is Bible Hub, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on the concordance number for paradosis, and we're gonna look at the word real quick. So G3862. Right? G3862. All right. Now you see paradosis, right? Paradosis. So tradition is a handing down or over, right? A handing down or over, an instruction or a tradition, right? It comes from two separate words in the Greek. Para means from, close beside, and didomi, which is giving over. So something closely, something. It has to be uh, close to you to be handed over to you, right? When somebody hands something to you, they're close in proximity to you, right? So it's a something that's been passed down or transmitted from one generation to the next. A lot of times passed on in 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 ignorance, and the people who get it or receive it, they pick it up in innocence, right? A lot of times, right? But every tradition is not bad, right? Every tradition is not bad. We're just going to look at what was going on in a little while. We're going to look at what was going on as far as the Last Supper or the Lord's Supper, and how the church today has taken, the Lord's Supper or the Last Supper to mean what they have it to mean, versus we're looking at what it meant to the people, what it meant to Yod Hey Wahey's people. And when I say Yod Hey Wahey, that is the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton that make up the Most High's name, right? So tradition, para comes from para didomi, so it's paradosis, right? And in the text, you'll see it translated as sometimes the act of giving up or surrendering. What we're going to look at is pretty much it's in the sense of a giving over, which is done by word of mouth or in writing, right? So the oral law that the Pharisees were talking about, right? That was something that was given by word of mouth from their elders, right? From the great men of the assembly, who pretty much got influenced by Ezra and Nehemiah, right? Right. So with that being said, we're going to look at Matthew 26. Yeah, let's look at Matthew 26. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. So Matthew 26. We're going to actually. I'm not going to read this just yet. Not just yet. All right. But we're going to go to Matthew 26 here. Let me back up for BA. I gotta start using the e-sword to go into the different Bible versions. I'm definitely gonna start doing that. I already have it downloaded. I just need to come forward. I just need to become more familiar with it. So hey, Sister Regina, Mashalomacha. How are you? Huh? How you doing? Mashalomacha Hayom. How you doing today? Y'all. Oh, screen is blurry. Is my screen blurry, y'all? Let me know. The screen I'm sharing, is it blurry? What
Nah,
hey, BA, can you see it?
the screen looks cool to me.
Looks cool to you? All right. So if it's blurry on either on you guys' end, you guys might want to do a refresh. I know sometimes if you're on these cell phone apparatuses, when somebody starts sharing the screen, it takes a while for the screen not to be blurry. But it may be that if you're looking at this on your phone. All right. I hope it clears up for you. All right. So, brother BA, please read. We're gonna read Matthew chapter 26, verses 17 to 28, and we're gonna look at some things also in the Greek. Just a couple of words in the Greek, right?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, verse 17. Now, on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover? He said, go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciple, okay. And the
I made it bigger.
disciples, it's all good. And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they had prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at the table with the 12. And as they were eating, he said, truly I say to you, one of you will betray me. And they were very sorrowful and began to say to him, one after another, is that I, Lord? He answered, he said, has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. He who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to the man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. I would have It would have been better for that man if he had not been born. Judas, who had betrayed him, answered, is that I, Rabbi? He said to him, you have said so. Now, as they were eating, Jesus took bread and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, take and eat, this is my body. And he took a cup, and where he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins.
Torah. Thank you, BA. So, starting up here from verse 17, it says, now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, well, where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover? Now, it says this is the first day of unleavened bread. In a sense, it is. It's in the Hebraic culture, things start when it comes to the feast days, especially when it's a week long. They'll say, okay, this is the start of something, right? This is the start of something. So this is why people think this is the actual 14th day of the Hebrew month of Aviv or Nisan, right? I'm here to tell you this is not exactly the 14th day yet of Nisan or Aviv. Aviv means when the barley is ripe, right? When they came out of when the children of Israel exited out of Egypt, they came out in the month of Aviv when the barley was ripe. Okay? All right. So, and it says, you know, will you where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover. So people thinking this is a Passover. People thinking this is when you slaughter the lamb and you're going to eat and you have the Seder, right? All right. So they're preparing. They're preparing, right? And so verse 19, the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover, right? So it says they prepared it. Now, when you prepare a Passover, you're not necessarily cooking it yet. You have to slaughter it. You have to slaughter it. You have to get all of the skin off, the entrails out. You have to clean it. That's what it is. Now, the actual 14th, when you have the day of the 14th, it's, for example, the a day or 24-hour cycle of a day, right? There's two meanings of day or two meanings of yom in the Hebrew. So there's a 12-hour time frame when there's sunlight, right? That's also called a day or a yom. And what's also called a day or a yom is the 24-hour period. 24-hour period for Hebrew, right? It starts in the evening when it's dark. That's when a 24-hour time frame of a day starts in the Hebrew, right? I know there's controversy over that. However, in Genesis 1, it says it was evening and it was morning. It was evening and it was morning, right? So they were preparing it. They were preparing it. Now, on the 14th day of Aviv or Nisan, between the evenings, right? Between the evenings, that would be between 12 noon and about 5 or 6 p.m. on day 14 when they actually roasted it. And then going into the 15th, right? When the nighttime came, going into the 15th of Aviv or Nisan, that's when they would eat it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what's key here? Check this out. I'm gonna read 17 one more time because I think a lot of us we just missed that, right? Now on the first day of unleavened bread, very key.
Yeah, it's key, and we're gonna see what this was. We're gonna see what this was. Hey, it pretty much shocked me, right? It pretty much shocked me. So they were eating. Now, when it says they were eating, people assume they're eating the Passover already. No, they're preparing it. They're not eating the Passover yet. Like, Shanti, where are you going? And I know my brother Zadok touched on this a while back, actually in the month of April during the time of Pesach and unleavened bread. You were going to say something, BA?
No, I was going to say, I think where automatically is assume they read the next sentence. Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover? And boom, it is automatically. You know what I'm saying? It's common because I've seen many people go here to try to prove something other than understand the context of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting, very interesting.
And sometimes we can't understand the context without understanding the full culture and the traditions.
Oh, you didn't say that.
I did.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Now, the Lord's Supper, the Lord's Supper or the Last Supper, is it a bad tradition? No, but I'm gonna show here that the church has got this tradition a little bit misconstrued. And I pray to the Most High that you go back and look at this information that I'm presenting. Right? This is just the part one. Right? It's just the part one. So, what I want to get to. Matthew 26. I want to look at this word here. Let's see. Verse 27. So Matthew 26, verse 27. I want to look at this word here. Pay attention to this. It's Evcharistisas. Evcharistisas. Right? A lot of us hear that word today pronounced as Eucharist.
Yeah.
A lot of us hear this word pronounced as Eucharist.
Eucharist, exactly.
This is where the church gets communion from. Not only what's taking place at the Lord's Supper or the Last Supper right? They like, okay, he give thanks. So this cup and this bread here, when you're eating, when you're fellowshipping like this at the table with the people, they want to call it the Eucharist, right? And a lot of Protestants became about, right? Maybe because they had an issue with the way some of the Catholic Christians did their Eucharist or their communion. Now Eucharist, right? You see it here. Um, it's a noun and it's a masculine singular, right? Eucharist, right? But it means thanks, right? To be thankful, to be thankful, right? Properly acknowledging that God's grace works well, for example, for our eternal gain in his glory, to give thanks, literally thankful for God's good grace, right? Yep, I know, sharp spear, I know. We're going to talk about that later, not today. Not today. I'll bring my fluent in Hebrew more in here to talk about that. And when I mean fluent in Hebrew, I'm not just talking about reading the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation in Hebrew. No, I'm talking about actually speaking the language. He's been over to Israel about 20 times, and when he goes over there, he has full-blown conversations with the people over there.
But
So yeah,
you
we can
know,
do that. We can do
and
that
that's
later.
and I most definitely respect the elder. But the thing is that the topic is traditions. So it would be we would appreciate it if you hold your comments trying to correct somebody over what a day is and what it don't start. Hear all the
Well,
information first.
Well, let them do it, BA. Let them do it, BA. I
No, I
have a
mean,
choice. I have a choice not to respond, but I did respond. I was like, yeah, we could talk about that later. You know what I mean?
I mean,
No problem. But let
it-
the people have their opinion. I don't mind.
no,
Let
no,
the
it's
people have
cool.
their
It's
opinion.
cool if a person had an opinion. Doesn't no one have an issue with an opinion? But what we're saying is be considerate and listen to the whole matter before you run your mouth.
Mm,
That's it. That's what Israel known for. They do too much of this and not enough of this.
mm, mm,
But keep going,
mm.
sis.
Oh yeah. So so Eucharist. This is what they want to start calling the Lord's Supper, right? That's what they want to start calling the Lord's Supper. All right. Now, I have no problem with the Lord's Supper because I actually understand what it is. No problem, right? Let's go over to I'm gonna have you read the other account of it, BA, because there's just a little more or a tad bit more in this that Yeshua is saying. Um, when Yeshua is sitting down having a meal with the disciples, right? So let me go over to Luke chapter 22. I'm gonna have you read a bit. I'm gonna have you read a bit, and then we're gonna get to the kicker. All right. So let's go to Luke chapter 22. And all right, we're gonna start at verse 7, BA, and I'm gonna have you read all the way to verse 20, and then we're gonna show y'all what's going on. All right?
Yeah, it's about to get interesting. I would like
Oh
to hear
yeah,
responses once we bring this out. Deal
oh
with
yeah,
this information,
oh
not the
yeah,
stuff you can easily pick at.
oh yeah,
No, deal with this.
oh yeah.
Right? Verse 7. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat. Hold on. All right.
I got you. Go ahead.
I read that at 8 again. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat it. 9. They said to him, where will you have us prepare it? Verse 10. He said to them, behold, when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you, following him into the house that he enters. 11. And tell the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?
Now, when Yeshua says he wishes to eat the Passover, yes, this is the area or the place where he wants to eat the Pesach or the Passover with his disciples. That's That's no question there, right? They're preparing. They want to eat, right? When you say, hey, I want to go sit down, you have an intention on sitting down to eat. That's your intention, right? Your intentions is to eat the Passover, right? All right. Continue, BA.
Verse 12. And he will show you a large upper room furnished, prepare it there. And they went and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. Verse
Remember,
14.
preparation of the Passover is just to get it ready so they can eat it, right?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Verse 14. And when the house came, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have earnest desire to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he said, take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, hold on, what was I? Okay, I know, man. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And likewise, the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup is poured out for you, is the new covenant in my blood.
All right, so and likewise, the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. However, verse 19 says he took the bread, and when he had given thanks, remember thanks? Eucharist, right? This is what they're calling the Eucharist. When they're breaking bread and taking the wine, they want to call it the Eucharist, and that's what they want to call the Lord's Supper. And we know Paul called it the Lord's Supper. We're going to talk about that in a hot second, right? So he took the bread, he gave thanks, he broke it, he said to them, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Yes, do this in remembrance of me. Now, I know I grew up Baptist. I grew up Baptist, BA, and the altar where they would actually serve the communion trays that, you know, with the grape juice and the little wafers or whatever, right? It had this on the front, the little altar. It had this on the front. It said, do this in remembrance of me. And so what the church has done is they've said, hey, we're going to do this every first Sunday of the month. And I'm like, I always wondered why. You know, I always had these questions of why. And no one ever answered why. I had to find out later on. And actually, you know, so a few months ago, I found out why. And I found out when. I found out when this was supposed to take place. I found out when. Sharp spear, Saliha, pardon me. You're okay. You're okay. But we'll talk about that later. We can always talk about different subjects later. You know, we can always talk about that. All right. Why? And when? When are we supposed to do this in remembrance of Yeshua? And why did Yeshua say, do this in remembrance of me? Why did Yeshua say, do this in remembrance of me?
Because Passover was already something they were keeping.
Passover was something already they were keeping. However, this right here is not the Passover. This
exactly.
This is not the Passover.
So why would he sit back and say, do this in remembrance of me, when they were already keeping Passover?
When they were about to really keep Passover, when they've been keeping Passover for years. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have to be reminded to be keeping Passover. That was something they were already doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the master here, he is saying, do this.
Do this.
In remembrance of me.
Find out what this is. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, BA. Go ahead.
So it's very important and it's imperative that we go back and look at the social and historical context of what's going on. We claim to be Israel, but for some reason we don't know nothing about the people and what they did culturally or nothing. We just want to change our name to yada yada and start shouting. That's not how that works. Understand the history of the people who you claim to descend from. Then people will take you serious. Go ahead, sis.
So this is a nice way of talking about tradition, right? So watch this. We're gonna go over to 1 Corinthians 11 in a hot minute, right? Actually, let's do that right now. Let's do that first, BA, and then let's give them the kicker, right? All right. So, and then we'll go over to the kicker. 1 Corinthians 11, verses 23 to 26. We're still going to talk about what Yeshua meant by do this in remembrance of me, right? We're going to read verses just 23 to 26.
All right.
This is Paul. This is Paul talking to the Corinthians, right?
Verses 23, and we're going to pick up there. For I have received from the Lord what I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus on the night when he was betrayed took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And the same way also he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." 26. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes.
All right. So Paul is teaching the congregation in Corinth how to do things, right? It's like, hey, they were sitting down, commemorating and fellowshipping with one another. However, each one brought their own individual stuff, and other people didn't have anything. It's like, hey, you're supposed to. This is the way you're supposed to do it. The tradition, like this is. You're not supposed to do things on an individual basis when it comes to this tradition here, right? Now watch this.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no.
There's gonna be brick house with me and you soon.
Oh yeah. They're getting ready to stone us, BA.
Yeah, here come the bricks.
Here come the bricks. All right. Hold on. Let me get that back.
Like I was saying earlier, it's imperative. It's very important. If you're gonna claim a tradition, if you're gonna claim a people, you need to know how they got down and how they live socially. You need to understand them from a historical and social perspective. I'm going to keep stressing it. If you do this more often, take your time and do the history and the research, people will take you serious. If you don't, people's not going to take you serious. They're going to keep laughing at you.
So, the evening of the 14th, right when the 14th began, right when the 14th day began, an evening. This is the evening, because this is at nighttime, right? It's at nighttime. This is the 14th of Aviv, or the 14th of Nisan, going into it, starting that. Right? That word here, Seuda Masechet. Seuda Masechet. So that is Seuda Masechet. That is Samek Ayin Shurek Dalit Hey. So that is Samek Ayin Shurek Dalit Hey, and then Masechet. This is gonna surprise you. Masechet. That is what became an idiomatic phrase from the root, which is Pesach, right? Because it has a mem, then it has a fe or a pay. It has a fe or a pay. Then it has the samech. Then it has the chet, right? Then it has the tav, mafsechet. But the root of that is what? Pay or the fe, the samech, and then the chet. What does pay, samek, and chet spell? Pesach. What is Pesach? Passover. So, origins of the Last Supper. It's called a Seuda Masechet. Y'all go back and Google this. You're gonna be like, oh my goodness. I just picked the easiest article on it to read. And it's very understandable for an audience that may not be privy to have been hearing this, right? So let me read it. Yeshua and his disciples were Galileans. They naturally observed the Galilean festival traditions. It would have been unthinkable for them to do otherwise, right? This is something that was handed down. Go ahead, BA.
Yeshua and the disciples are Galileans, and the Galileans had festivals and traditions.
They had traditions, right? But
Wow.
these traditions that Yeshua Jesus was following was not against the written Torah, and we're going to see that in a hot second, and then we're gonna close out. So the Judeans were somewhat understanding about the distances that had to be traveled by the Galileans, and so allowed for their slightly different traditions to accommodate this difficulty. But they did not care for a couple of other additions that both the Galileans and the Samaritans made to the Passover rituals that had little to do with travel distances and times. They added in an extra ritual celebration that the Judeans did not recognize. The celebration was called Seudah Masechet, and it happened as the day was changing from Aviv 13 or Nisan 13 to Aviv 14 or Nisan 14. Now, the festival calendar for the Hebrews, it starts in the spring when life is popping off and jumping off. So that would be, sometimes it would start in March, sometimes it would start in April, right? This past year, the Hebrew calendar, the month started, the first calendar month started April 1st, right? So remember now, Passover was on Aviv 14. Also remember that the day changes at about 7 p.m. in the evening time. So remember I said on day 14, between the evenings, that phrase between the evenings, right? Bain, what is it? Bain Edavim. Between the evenings is on day 14, but between like 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. See, back in this time, there was no exact Hebrew word or phrase for afternoon. So they would say between the evenings. Right? Now, let me continue. In this celebration, the Galileans and the Samaritans put an emphasis on the firstborn aspect of the Exodus, calling to mind that it was the firstborn Israelites who were protected from death and the firstborn Egyptians who were killed. So the Galileans declared that Aviv 14, the beginning of that day, the day of Passover, was to be a day of fasting for firstborn sons of each family in honor of the Lord saving their lives. Right? However, they also added in a ritual meal that occurred at the beginning of Passover, Aviv 14, called Seudah Masechet. Since the Hebrew day changes at sundown, the first meal of a new day for any Israelite would be dinner, their nighttime meal, right? For a Westerner, our first meal of the day is breakfast because it occurs at around sunrise, which is the beginning of our day. So the firstborn sons of the Galileans, and Yeshua was a what, BA? He was a what?
A Galilean.
Oh, he was a Galilean.
No. For the tribe of Judah.
Hey, they called the people where they was from, right? All right. So the firstborn sons of the Galileans and the Samaritans would have a meal to begin the day of Passover, a dinner meal, and then fast for the next 24 hours until it was time for the official Passover Seder meal.
Now it makes sense why the master says, "Do this in remembrance of me."
Because what does Yeshua get called in the book of Colossians, chapter 1? Yeshua gets called the firstborn of creation, and the firstborn of the dead.
For those who, for us who believe in him.
For us who believe in him.
Yeah, we're not talking to those that don't believe in him. We're not talking to you guys. I'm talking for those who believe in him. That's what the message is for.
Right? So, this is not conjecture or some new modern interpretation. This is to be found in the ancient Hebrew Mishnah, which I'm going to show y'all. Y'all know I pulled it up. Y'all know I pulled it up. Right? This is to be found in the ancient Hebrew Mishnah. Right? The Mishnah was a list of oral law that was legislated, right? In order to instruct people orally on how to carry out written instructions or written Torah, right?
Well, hold on. The Mishnah is Jewish. It ain't Hebrew.
They don't understand what Jewish and Hebrew is. They don't understand what Jewish and Israelite is.
I know.
Moving on.
Keep going.
So this is fully recognized by religious Jews. Okay? By the way, this added celebration of having a dinner meal to start out the day of Passover that is called Seudah Masechet literally translates to the Last Supper, because Seudah is meal or supper, right? Masechet would be the last one before a fast, the last meal before a fast. And they also did this ritual meal before the day of mourning, the Tisha B'Av. What is it? The 9th of Av, or the 9th of the 5th Hebrew month. They would mourn. They would, have a commemoration and mourn. So they would have this last meal before they fasted, right? The Last Supper title for them meant, the Last Supper title for them meant that this would be the Last Supper for a firstborn Hebrew who lived in either the Galilee or Samaria. They would fast until he celebrated the Passover meal along with all other Hebrews. I hope some mental light bulbs are starting to go off. That's what the writer of this article is saying, right? Right. So let me continue to read, and we'll go to the Mishnah. Right? It has long been recognized that in antiquity there were two Passover Seders. One the night before Passover and the other the night of Passover. This is why in Matthew 15 it says the beginning of 11 breads. The first day of 11 breads. Notice I said breads, because in the Greek is azimon, and that is the plural of bread. Right? Remember? Right? All right. So it's the one that occurs on the night of Passover, beginning of V14, right? That Jews today celebrate and that Christians are pretty much aware of. Now, when I was a Sunday Christian, I heard about the Passover, and I definitely thought this was a Passover. You know how you walked in the churches, or you walked in your grandmama's house and you saw that portrait of the Last Supper and Jesus in the middle. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was the Last Supper Passover, I thought that was the Last Supper Passover, but I know now it's necessarily not. It's the memoriam. It's the meal. It's the last meal they have before they fast, right? Going into a V14, or the beginning of the day of Passover. So, however, since the details have been buried deep in the bowels of Jewish historical documents the realities of this dual seder and how the two meals differ and who participated in them and why and what was served has been overlooked. There are a couple of reasons that we are carefully going over the laws concerning these biblical feasts. First, because the way that some Jews and Christians celebrate those holy days today is not necessarily scripturally accurate. And second is because this was the series of festivals during which Yeshua HaMashiach celebrated a final meal with his disciples, was betrayed and arrested, tried and executed, and was buried and rose from the dead. This was the climax of what Yeshua had come for in the first place, and it will remain the most important part of his earthly ministry until he comes again for the next stage in God's redemption process. Right? Now to the Mishnah. You can go to Sephoria, sephoria.org. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Now you going to that stuff. Oh God.
Yes, see, because a
Oh
lot of people
boy.
think this is the satanic document. They think this is
Oh
the
man.
demonic document.
Spoken by people who ain't never read it.
Who ain't never read it. See, sometimes you got to realize these are recorded conversations for your historical understanding of how they thought, how they perceived things.
Written by who?
Written by your people initially.
Israelites.
Oh. Written by
Hey, I got a copy of the Mishnah here at the house. I go through it constantly. It's a good studying source. It's a good historical source. Some good stuff in there.
All right. So this is Tractate Sopharim. And Sopharim, that means the scribes, right? When you say Sofer, that's the single, it means scribe. When you say Sopharim, that's the plural. This is Sopharim, Tractate Sopharim. You can find this at sephoria.org, right? In the Talmud section, in the extra tractates, Tractate Sopharim, go look at it. All right, let me start reading here. And this is it. So up above, they were talking about Purim. Right? They were talking about Purim, but we're going to get to what we want to get to. So, reverting to the sequence of the readings, which is interrupted for Purim, it is the custom of our rabbis in the West to afflict themselves by fasting the 3 days of the fast of Mordecai and Esther, intermittently vis-a-vis after Purim on the Monday, Thursday, and Monday. Right? And why do we not fast in the month of Nisan? Pay attention, though. Pay attention. And why do we not fast in the month of Nisan? Because on the 1st of Nisan, the tabernacle was erected. Now, Nisan is the Babylonian calendar name for the month of Aviv, right? So, because on the 1st of Nisan or Aviv, the tabernacle was erected, and 12 princes offered their sacrifices during the first 12 days, a day for each tribe, and everyone held a festival on his day. See, festivals, added festivals, as long as they don't go against the Most High, as long as they're not idolatrous in origin, they're okay. Furthermore, in the time to come, the sanctuary will be rebuilt in Nisan or Aviv to confirm what is stated. There is nothing new under the sun. All right. Watch this, though. For this reason, no supplications are offered on any of the days of Nisan or Aviv, and there is no fasting until Nisan or Aviv has passed. Watch this. Pay close attention. The only exception is the fast of the firstborn who fast on the eve of Passover. The very pious also fast on that day on account of the unleavened bread, in order that they shall begin to eat it with relish. Scholars fast on Mondays and Thursdays throughout the year on account of the desecration of the name of God and for the honor of the temple which was burnt. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what was Yeshua and the disciples doing on the beginning of Pesach or Passover in that evening, day 14? Day 14. They were what? They were eating their last meal before they fast. Commemorating, or excuse me, doing this in remembrance of the firstborn. Why? Because Yeshua is the firstborn of creation. Yeshua is the firstborn of the dead. Firstborn among many brethren, as we see in Hebrews, I believe that's chapter 1, in Romans chapter 8, right? It says something to that effect. Firstborn among the brethren, right? So when Yeshua says, do this in remembrance of me, do this in remembrance of him being the firstborn of what? Creation, the firstborn of the dead, firstborn of many brethren, who was going to what? Who's going to sacrifice?
Willingly give himself.
Willingly give. In order that Israel, Judah, and humanity have an opportunity.
No.
Oh, have an opportunity to
That's
come
the
back to the
Hebrew
Most High
Israelite Messiah.
That's right. They have an opportunity to come back to the Most High Yod Hey Waheh.
Let me stop.
Good.
Stop. Yeah, we understand salvation most definitely is a gift that the Most High gave to humanity. And if you need more clarification on that, just go back to Genesis, and it explains it right there. Right there. And Israel didn't know nothing about salvation until the Most High allowed them to understand what it meant. And it was not given to them first, it was given to humanity.
Humanity. So the Last Supper, right? The Last Supper or the Lord's Supper. When is it to be done? It's pretty much to be done once a year. Right?
And
go ahead, BA.
I was gonna say, we understand people may disagree.
Right.
And we don't mind the disagreements. But like I always say, if you're going to disagree, please, before you try to do anything else, make sure you read and look at the stuff that we've shared. And on top of that, you have to bring sources that are going to oppose what we have brought out. We don't want to hear no Sunday preaching, no Sabbath day fussing. We want to see sources. If you do not have sources, I'm telling you right now, you're wasting your time. We will not entertain you. We'll just treat you as if you don't exist. We'll just leave it at that. But if you got sources, let's look at them. Let's read them. Let's vet them. Let's talk about it. But if your feelings are cut, man, you gotta take it up to the Most High, man. We ain't got time for all that. We don't.
Straight up. No, I know the Sunday church. They're still gonna do what they do. No problem. I just want people to understand that when you are handed down traditions, or when you're handed down things and you just say, well, mama did it, daddy did it, grandma did it, and grandpa did it, and you don't ask no questions, this is what you can run into. And in part 2 of Paradosis, we're going to take a look at what Mr. Blacktastic calls the church baby daddies, or who are formally known as the church fathers, how they came in and they started giving traditions that had nothing to do with what Paul, James, and Peter got handed down. This answered my why. And a lot of people ask me, hey, Shanti, do you still believe in Jesus? I absolutely believe in Jesus. You might hear me call him his Aramaic Hebrew name majority of the time, which is Yeshua, no problem. However, I wanted to get a better, greater understanding of what it meant to walk like him, what it meant to imitate him, right? What it meant to do as he did. So the example that Jesus, Yeshua, laid out for me to do, I will do. That's the applicable parts, right? Because we're here in America, some things we can't do, right? But for the majority of what we can do, as we see Jesus doing, as we see Yeshua doing, that's what I wanted to do. And it looks like I totally don't believe in Jesus. It looks like I totally don't believe in Yeshua, but I do. I do believe in Yeshua. I'm just going back to the Hebraicness of the culture. I'm going back to what was given to Yeshua. That's what I'm doing, and it looks a lot different than what the church is doing and have been doing today for the last 2,000 years. It does. It does look like I don't believe in Yeshua because I don't keep certain holidays or whatever. But, people's like, Shanti, are you a Jew? And I'm like, well, hey, if that's what Yeshua was, why would not I want to be like that? They say I want to be more like Christ. Well, Christ was a Galilean from the tribe of Judah, Israel, an Israelite. An Israelite is he who strives, wrestles, prevails, reigns, and rules with Elohim, or Yod He Wahe. And the ways, majority of the ways of the Jews, or majority of the ways of the Israelites, are the majority of the ways that the Most High Yod He Wahe gave humanity to keep and observe from day one.
Let's see, the brother Jay Israel. I think, brother Jay Israel, when you get a chance, maybe you want to start over at the beginning and hear our point. I would suggest that maybe you may
talking about Jah might. Is that?
I don't acknowledge that. That doesn't even.
Oh, okay, Jah. Okay.
I don't know who.
You know him personally, or whoever him or her personally. Okay. Well, their name is Jah might. I'm not going to be disrespectful here. I'm going to say Jah might. I don't know if that's who you're talking with.
No, I'm not talking nobody. No, I'm talking about the brother Jay Israel.
Jay Israel. Israel. Okay.
I was saying pretty much just, so he may want to probably go to the beginning of the video to get a much more clarity about what we're talking about.
Oh, yes, definitely.
He may have came in late. I'm not quite sure, but if you did come in late, brother, maybe start at the beginning, and then it'll bring much more clarity what we're bringing out.
Yes.
But the other, I don't. You already know how I get down with sis. I don't even.
I got you. And in part 2, we're going to talk about the church baby daddies or the church fathers, how they start handing down traditions that did not come from Paul, James, or Peter. And we're going to talk about how they turn the Seudah Mafsachet into the Lord's Supper as what we know today, and want to call it the Eucharist, and how it came to be that it's to be taken on Sundays, especially the first Sunday. And when I say Sunday, I mean S-U-N day. Sunday, S-U-N day. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at that in part 2. So,
I think Moore wanted the link.
Moore want the link?
Yeah, I think he wants
the link. Okay, I'm gonna give Moore the link, and I'm gonna let this go for probably about 20 more minutes, because I wanna finish up here.
No, it's all good, sis. Take time. Do what you gotta do. You know what I'm
saying? Here, let me send this link to the Taiwan Swain. Yeah. I'm gonna send it to your messenger, or Moore. I'm gonna send it to your messenger there.
Yeah, I see the elder. I see the elder over there.
Mr. Blacktastic?
Yeah, the elder over there.
All praise. I seen that. I seen that. He said, "You mean to tell me they was driving a Nissan?"
Yeah, elder over there. Yeah,
I'm seeing that stuff.
Hey, man.
But I have to go. I have to go.
You gotta have some humor. You have to, man. You can't be all day. You can't, man.
Right.
You'll blow a van in your head. Come on, man. It's nothing wrong with having a laugh and having some fun. Yes, this is serious business because this is people's salvations on the line. So of course, but everything is not meant for you to be so uptight. Like, good Lord, bruh. Know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. But much love to the elder. Always good to hear from him and to see him joking and jiving and doing his whatever it is he be doing.
Oh, you about to Taiwan swing, yeah, you crazy. Are you gonna hit the link? You gonna hit the link? More? I sent the personal invite link to your messenger. You gonna snitch on us? Brother Isaiah, oh my goodness! You gonna take us? You said you're gonna take us to the council, huh?
Oh man!
Shalom, shalom to the Great Awakening. Let me see who was all up in here. Shalom to the Great Awakening. Ma shalomacha, right? Ma shalomacha. And John Might. I apologize. Salicha. I apologize. I thought Brother BA was talking to you, but he wasn't. So I got it mixed up. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. Miss Beverly, I gave the name of my YouTube channel, 916 Sean. Please subscribe. And to the rest of everyone who's listening now, who's going to listen later, yes, please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is a definite good share. Because we're not done yet. I can't wait to bring out to part 2. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to bring out to part 2. Jay Israel, thank you for coming in. Toda, thank you for coming in. Brother Jermaine, thank you for coming in. I sent you. Oh yeah. A Bruce should never be hurt by this one. Hallelujah.
Yeah. More say he backstage, I believe.
Yep, I'm letting him in.
But we appreciate those just to come out to listen, man. That's all we just ask, just listen. And if you got your opinions or your disagreements, that's cool. But make sure that you're actually hearing, listening to everything, and make sure your strikes against it that is dealing with the topic. And as you can see, unfortunately, we have individuals who just have to come on here, and they can't do nothing else, so they'll just start attacking whoever they want to attack. So it is what it is. But I'm not gonna give them no whatever. So, well, what's up with you, more? It's been a minute, bro. What's the word?
Shalom alaikum. Yeah, I had to go share this one good and early in the broadcast because I saw y'all was ready to get it in. I was like, oh, we doing this morning. Okay, that's what's going on. But for the listeners, what I'm saying, I got to come through and do it like this right quick. I got to be the devil's advocate for a quick second, right?
Go on.
Are you meaning to tell me, all my Baptist fam with the grape juice and the wafers, you know what I'm saying? You mean to tell me all them times when I was a kid, all like going through I was off on the doctrine?
Yes. We was off on the doctrine.
So you mean to tell me we could have squared that one away like once a year and been good?
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Okay.
Absolutely.
That was
Yeshua then wasn't drinking no grape juice. They was drinking wine, fermented. Yayin.
Yeah, that was the good stuff back in them days, man. That's the good stuff.
That's right. we was drinking that Magen David. But go ahead, Brother Moore.
So I gotta ask the devil's advocate question for the viewers. So are you meaning to tell me, is this even a Christian practice at all?
No.
No, it's not. Oh,
I mean, it would not be a Christian practice because they don't know about it. The majority don't know about it.
It's also said that a lot of Christians got a lot of their traditions from the Qumran community as well. There's a source, John Bergsma. It's called Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls. John Bergsma, Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls. A lot of Christian doctrine come from the Qumran community. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed.
I'm sorry. I'm slowly picking myself up off the ground. As I'm getting my balance. So I don't have I didn't have to do it all the time. I could have done it once a year. It's not even a Christian practice. Hold on, I'm catching my breath. Hold up.
Right. Okay. And you inspired me to do this. Orthodox Moore. You inspired me to do this.
Oh, Orthodox now this is my fault. Oh, the hate mail's going to the Moore. Got you. Yes. That's what's up. The Orthodox Moore gmail.com.
Don't worry about it, man. You know, I get hate mail.
Orthodox Moore gmail.com. I will take all the hate mail. You know what I'm saying? But okay, so now I saw you. Okay, you brought out the Mishnah, right?
Yeah. So,
inquiring minds want to know: are you trying to tell me that that's something I need to refer to? Is it something that's on par with Scripture? If I don't use it, can I still come to the same conclusions that you came to via the text? What are you saying with all that?
The Talmud, which consists of the Mishnah, which is halakha, the way to carry out what's in the written Torah, and it also consists of the Gemara. The Gemara is the rabbis and sages having conversations as to how they came up with the Mishnah or the Halakha. So it is a historical documentation recorded of their opinions, their perceptions, how they looked at things, how they went about deeming things into their practices, into their daily lives. It's not necessarily a demonic or a satanic document. There are some things in there that are crazy, right? But in the Bible, there's some things that are crazy or off the wall. It's documentation, it's record, so that we know what went on back then, how they thought, what was their mindset, how they came up with all these things, who was involved. You know, it's used for those purposes. In order to understand a lot of why the Pharisees questioned Yeshua or Jesus the way they did, one would benefit from going in the Talmud, which consists of the Mishnah and Gemara. A lot of questions the different schools of Pharisees asked were because of what was handed down to them from who? Shammai and Hillel, and the rabbis and sages who came before them. So in order to understand that, it would behoove us to go back and get acquainted with that documentation. Yes. I know I'm gonna be stoned for this. I'm gonna be stoned. Ashanti, you telling people they would benefit from looking at the Mishnah? Yeah. I mean, look, you see this blue set starting.
Oh no.
Yeah, starting from where my hand is right here all the way to there. That's the Mishnah. That's the elucidated Mishnah.
Hey, I remember years ago. Years ago. Well, this is back what 2012, 2013.
It was like 2014, somewhere around there.
It sis was pulling out some sources for the Talmud. I was like, sis, man, that book is dangerous. It got spells and all kind of stuff in it. And then she was like, I was like, I fell victim. Yeah, I was hearing the hearsay, the mouth runners. And then I decided, okay, well, let me find out for myself what's going on. And then as the years progressed, I started to learn that the Talmud, just a historical record and interpretation of the Torah by the rabbis and the sages and various other things within it. And I've gotten to a point to where I surround myself with a lot of Jewish sources for my own studies. Not because sis told me or you have to do it. No, it's because I have my own mind. I decide to read the stuff for myself. That's simple.
Yeah. And shalom, mashalechem, mashalecha, to Aqua Intuition and to Shebrew Light. I didn't mention them earlier. I do want to say to everybody who came in, plus the Orthodox more, something that I learned today because I'm trying to speak in Hebrew just a little more. So, ani mekave shekulechem osim tov umavorek. That is, I hope y'all are good and blessed. I hope y'all are good and blessed. All right. So, yeah. Any more questions?
Hey, yeah, I'll say this real quick.
Yes.
So I'm somebody who considers myself a Messianic Karaite Jew, right? And with my studies, it matches up with exactly what you're talking about in terms of it being a once-a-year event, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's important to note. So we're coming at it from two different angles, and we still come to the same conclusion and whatnot.
Hallelujah. No, that's tight.
No, let me ask. I've never heard that term before, a Messianic Karaite Jew.
I'm sure you haven't.
No. Don't say that because I study with just actual Karaites who don't even know. So I mean, you know the difference. But I'm asking this: is that within the same belief of Orthodox Moor?
Say that one more time.
Is that within the same belief as the Orthodox Moor?
Well, yeah, I'm the only person I know that calls himself an Orthodox Moor, but yeah, like so, yeah, I'm a Messianic Karaite in like a Quranist Muslim. I would get down. So my tradition is real broad, but it gets real specific too. But like so, basically, what I do is I just use the text by itself. I don't use any commentaries. I don't use any hadith. I don't use the Talmud, the Mishnah, etc. What I do is I use the text by itself. I take out, if I want to know something about a topic, I take out every verse on the topic. I compare and contrast. I see what it says, see what the consistent through line is, and just rock with that.
No, it's all good. I have no issue with that because I know Kirites. A lot of them, they don't even use no commentaries. They're strictly scripture. That's fine, you know what I'm saying. But a lot of them I've come across, they don't even acknowledge the fact that there is a Messiah to come. So for you to say that you're a Messianic Kirite, you know what I'm saying? That was just very interesting. I was like, okay, well, that's sort of more so like another version of the Orthodox Moor.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like an original Morism for real, like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you'll hear me say I'm a Messianic Muslim and a Messianic Karaite, like, so it's a. But yeah, like, but even in the Tanakh and Torah tradition, they believe in the coming Messiah, right? Like, so I've been able to do a lot of interfaith works where I work with the people who are Old Testament and New Testament, just based upon the concept. Like, when you take a step back, like we're saying a lot of the same things. And even if I just jump into the concept of comparing Jesus and David and what they had to say, they're saying a lot of the same things and whatnot, in terms of like the inward aspects of things and whatnot. So there's for instance, like when you get into like the book of John, right, you can see why when you actually take a step back and compare and contrast, you can see why there's people like Nicodemus coming up on Jesus, like, you know what, I can see that you're a rabbi sent from the Most High, and yeah, teach me, break this down, right? What you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of what he's saying that if you really step back and look at the scrolls, it matches up and whatnot. And so someone from my tradition, like, so for me, something I had to do was like I went to the Tanakh and I looked at the Tanakh, broke it down, like from like if I just took it away from the New Testament, like what did I understand? I saw the same thing as I see in the New Testament, right? And what I also saw is I saw prophecies about books to come, etc. So I had to reconcile that. So I had to reconcile, does the New Testament satisfy certain things with what it's talking about? I was like, you know what, I can't say it don't, you know what I'm saying? And so and I had to ask myself the question, like, so if I take this as a scripture, how does it line up? Blah, 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 blah. And so when everything matched up, I couldn't say no, right? And so I have different beliefs than a lot of Messianic Israelites have, but at the same point in time, they're not too far off. And if we really sit back and talk and slow things down, like I say to do all the time, like, we're gonna find out we're not really saying too much different stuff. We're saying a lot of the same stuff from different perspectives and whatnot. And it's again, it's like what Bruce Lee said when he was quoting Confucius, when he said it's like a finger pointing to the moon. Do not concentrate on the finger, you'll miss all the heavenly glory. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, don't get caught up on a lot
the
of
presentation.
Yeah,
exactly.
So for instance, like, I don't confirm the Trinity in any way, shape, or form, right? However, right, I don't reject the Trinity, right? I ask certain questions to people like, okay, how do you see it? Like, so I don't accept the Catholic doctrine of the Trinity or the Western, the church concept of the co-equal, co-eternal, co-substantial concept, right? However, I don't reject a lot of people's understandings of the Trinity, right? And
you understand?
Yeah. Like, if we go through it, I'm like, okay, I might think this is saying this one way, right? But if I hear what you believe, I'm like, okay, cool, got you. But it's not an issue for me, right? And one of the reasons it's not an issue is because how I see the New Testament, is as to what the New Testament describes as these necessary things in like Acts 15, etc., right? So I don't beef a lot. I look to build bridges a lot and try to understand what people are saying, how they're saying it, where they're coming from, and whatnot. So, for instance, like, I don't own a Mishnah. I don't read the Mishnah. However, I'm gonna go look up everything that was just cited here, just to go check out the historical aspect of it, right? And this is someone who considers themselves a Karaite, right? I don't deem it necessary for anything in terms of coming to a judgment on something, right? However, I don't reject historical analysis either, right? And because I think it's interesting, and I find this all the time when I talk to people who are quote unquote Orthodox Jews. When they'll tell me that, like, wow, you come up to a lot of the same judgments I come up to, or we come up to, like, well, we got the same source that we're working from, right? We're starting from the book, right? And so I think it's interesting that as a Karaite or as a someone who deals with Orthodox traditions and whatnot, if you really parse stuff, you're going to come up to really similar concepts on stuff, right? And that's because you're dealing with the same source text. So yeah, I definitely appreciate the source material. I definitely appreciate y'all going into stuff, and I definitely appreciate y'all going into the Torah, Tittles, of the text and whatnot, because there's a lot that gets lost in translation in this stuff, man. Like so much. Like, since we was just talking about people losing whole synagogues in this piece, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you lose a whole synagogue?
Right. The assembly, the Knesset, Beit HaKnesset. How do you lose that? You know.
Definitely looking forward to part 2. So if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe, and please go check out the sister her YouTube page at 916 Sean on YouTube, and please go subscribe over there, because she gets down in this language, man.
Oh, you getting down too, and y'all please go subscribe to the Orthodox more, because he's going on tomorrow talking about how the people miss the synagogue, how the people miss that.
Hey, send your hate mail to 916 Sean, because I'm blaming all that on her, because you know what I'm saying.
Blame it on me.
Oh, I learned the Greek Hebrew from y'all. You know what I'm saying? I tell everybody come study with y'all. You know what I'm
saying? Right. Yeah, we gonna talk about how the synagogue got lost in James chapter 2, right?
Lost.
Oh yeah. How is Peter not an apostle to the circumcised, right? So that's what Moore is going to talk about tomorrow on his channel, the Orthodox Moore. Please subscribe to that as well. So with that being said, BA has dropped off. I don't have any more to say. I really thank each and every last one of y'all who joined in, participated. Oh, there goes BA. To everyone who's participated in listening, I hope you were edified. I hope you take this information back to the Most High, and in meditation and in prayer, and look up some more of Seudah Mapsakhet. Look that up. Shalom to Sister Nicole. Shalom to anyone else who tapped in. I didn't get a chance to say shalom to. But with that being said, I'm gonna let y'all. I'm gonna let y'all say some last words, and then I'm gonna close it out.
No, I don't have much to say. Just like I said, all praises to the Most High God in the name of His only anointed messenger known as Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. Thank you for those who actually want to come in and listen. I appreciate people for that. And most definitely much love to those who will be listening to it recorded. And hopefully it'll bring some clarification and edification for those who are seeking. For those who don't want it, it is what it is. Go ahead, Orthodox Moore.
Yeah, I appreciate both y'all for bringing this lesson out and really making this is a conversation where you have to slow down and really pay attention to stuff, right? And so I would invite people to do so. And if somehow this conversation has you in your feelings, just double check the text, double check the sources, and come at this lesson with some scholarship, because it was brought to you with some scholarship. Don't just bring your emotion to the chat section and into the comment section. Just there was some real thought put into this lesson, so please address the thought with a proper thought. I know I learned something.
Hallelujah.
So I appreciate y'all for teaching me.
We're all students. We're forever learning, bro.
Yep.
It ain't about who's over who, who's under who. That's not our get down over here. It's about learning. And the Most High said that we'll be continuously forever learning. Yep. So even those who call themselves teachers, they're students as well.
Right.
So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Brother Orthodox Moore. Thank you, BA, for joining in and giving your commentary, your input, your questions. Hey, there he go. Anonymous. You popped in last minute. Hey, check this out from the beginning. Let me know what you think. I always appreciate your thoughts and your take. Always make sure my stuff ain't Swiss cheese when I bring it out. But I want to say, Kol Tehelim, Kol Kabo, Wahati Feres, Yahweh, Avinu, Eloheinu. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, our Father, our Elohim, our deity, our power. Y'all stay tuned for Paradosis Part 2, where we going to get into the church fathers and the church baby daddies of how they turned the Seudah Mapsakhet into this Sunday, Eshun Day tradition. All right, I'm going to close it out with the priestly Aaronic blessing. Yevrechacha Yahweh verishmeraka. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha vichunecha. Yisa Yahweh panav elecha wa yasem lacha shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and show you favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you. That means accept you. And may Yahweh grant you shalom, peace, wellness, wholeness. Shabbat, shalom, shalom. Not Shabbat shalom, but shalom, shalom, l'chol mishpacha. Y'all have a good and blessed rest of y'all